Kia ora e te iwi no mai ki Central News, e whakanuia e te wiki o Te Reo Māori, ko Amy Forrest aho. In today's news, the cargo shed will reopen its doors this Saturday after the keys to the council-owned shed were handed over to the new managers. New leaseholders, the Stall Holders Collective, were officially given the keys by Council's property leasing coordinator, Jenny Robertson, on Monday morning, in a low-key event marking a milestone achievement for the collective. Cargo Shed Collective Manager Kathy Sass told Sun Live stall holders are excited and positive about the future of the shed. Members of the public are invited to visit the shed every weekend ahead of the grand opening in October. 40 people have drowned during the first 6 months of 2013, down from 55 at the same time last year. 3 people have drowned in Otago so far this year, which is 1 death more than the region's total number of drownings last year. Northland at 5 deaths is just 1 death short of its 2012 drowning toll of 6 people. Water Safety New Zealand Chief Executive Matt Claridge says while it's always positive to see a reduction in the number of drownings, there will be no celebration until the drowning toll is 0. National Maternity Indicators data released recently shows that 8 out of 10 women aged between 20 and 34 years old have an uncomplicated pregnancy and birth in the Waikato DHB area. Comparing the figures with other DHBs, Waikato is doing better than the national average of 7 out of 10 and continues to be in the top 5 performing DHBs. One of Waikato DHB's long-term aims is to reduce the risk associated with unnecessary caesarean sections, reduce the number of women at risk of a subsequent caesarean section, or experience difficulties with their second and subsequent births as a consequence of a primary caesarean section. A Bay of Plenty man is facing drug and firearm-related charges after police raided a Hannahs Bay property following anonymous tips from the public. Rotorua police raided the property on Monday, where they found 199 mature cannabis plants, 286 seedlings, more than 2 kg of cannabis plant material, and a firearm. A 52-year-old man has been arrested and is due to appear in Rotorua District Court on Thursday. Police say anonymous tips from the community helped them shut down 4 significant drug operations in the last 6 weeks, removing about $200,000 worth of drugs off the street. Now for our region's weather. Hamilton, the rain will clear to a fine afternoon for you tomorrow with a high of 17 and a low of 3. And much the same for you, Tauranga, with rain clearing in the afternoon, a high of 17 and a low of 8. Just ahead, the benefits of a new mapping system. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. The University of Waikato is working with the Waikato Regional Council on a project to map the native bush and swamps throughout the region. We caught up with GIS analysts for the Environmental Research Institute, Glenn Stitchbury, to find out more about the MAP project.
Tell us about the mapping of the project.
Okay, so what we're doing is, on behalf of the Waikato Regional Council, we're trying to classify the land cover of the Waikato region using aerial photography. And more specifically, what we're doing is we're trying to automate this process of classifying the images, which would be a lot quicker and cheaper than if you were to manually classify these images.
What is the process of mapping such a large area?
Well, for a number of years now, the Regional Council has been capturing images of the Waikato region. In these images you can see lots of variation, the different land uses, different vegetation, water and wetlands. And so to be able to use that information any further, you really need to be able to delineate these different land covers into classes. Previously this could be done by just drawing shapes around the different land covers, but what we're hoping to do is to be able to use a computer to automate this process. So in the images you see the different colours of the different vegetation, different colour for water, things like that, and that's all due to how different land covers will be reflecting the different colours. So in these images you can see the different colours of the different vegetation and water, and that's due to the different way that these things will reflect light, or different colours. In these images we've got the colours that humans can see, the red, blue and green, but also they've captured near infrared, which humans can't see. But the great thing about near infrared is that things like vegetation will reflect near infrared very strongly, whereas other land covers like water would absorb it very strongly. And it's these different behaviours of how they reflect or absorb different colours which will enable us to train the computer to see these different land covers. We call these patterns of reflected signatures, and what we're trying to do is develop a way that we can use these signatures right across the region to be able to delineate the different land covers, to be able to map things like different indigenous or exotic forests, wetlands, things like that.
What native bush and swamps have you mapped thus far?
Well, we've been developing the process using a subset of images taken from around the Waikato district. So we've got areas like the Waikato River Delta, Whangamarino, around Pokeno and around Raglan and Pirongia. So we've got a lot of different land cover types in those areas, including swamp and native forests.
Why is it so important that we map these areas in the Waikato?
Well, it's to be able to have good land management decisions. With this data, we're hoping to be able to detect any significant areas of native vegetation, areas that could be unique in the Waikato or unique in New Zealand. We'll also be able to look at quantifying just how much of different land cover types we have in the region, and we'll be able to combine that data with other spatial data, things like elevation or river catchments, and it'll all be great for helping to inform decision making.
How much do you predict is swampland in the Waikato?
Well, the current estimate is around about 155 square kilometres, so that's about 1% of the Waikato catchment. In contrast, before conversion to farmland, that figure would have been around about 14% of the catchment. And so we're hoping that with this new process that we'll be able to see any change in that estimate, the current area.
What classes land as swamp?
That can be a hard thing to pin down, really, a classification of swamp, but really a general rule would be an area that's for at least most of the year saturated in water, which allows specialised species of vegetation to grow. And so it's those kind of qualities of wetness and vegetation that we're hoping to be able to detect to help us delineate the swamp areas.
What is the Regional Council's role in the project?
Well, the Regional Council have contracted us to undertake this project. They're the ones who obtain the aerial photography, and they're looking for ways of improving how they can use the images. And so what we're doing is we're developing a tool for them to use that they can apply to the hundreds of images that are captured across the Waikato, and they'll also be able to use the tool as new image sets become available.
What will this information be used for?
Well, we're trying to produce quality information for good decision making. We'll be able to delineate to a higher degree of detail what kind of land cover that we have in the Waikato, areas that might be unique, and also what kind of change is occurring in the region.
It's a big project. What challenges have you faced?
Well, it is a big project, and it's what we usually would be doing in this situation. In the past, we've been able to use satellite imagery, and so being able to take what we've done with satellites and do it at this higher degree of detail with aerial photography has been quite a challenge because there's just so much information in these images. There's a lot of differences between different vegetation in different areas. They might be the same plants, but they may look different in different areas. So there's been all those kind of things where we're trying to find out just all these different classes in this really high level of detail.
After the break, Hamilton Youth Forum. Welcome back. National Leadership Week is next week, and the Hamilton Youth Council are holding a youth forum. Hilary caught up with last year's top youth and the Youth Council.
Welcome to the program, guys. So, Jason, tell us about your upcoming youth forum.
Cool. So, on the 11th of July, we're organising the 4th annual FYI Youth Forum. So it's pretty much, it's during New Zealand Leadership Week, and it's sort of a way for, I guess, for us to sort of give people an opportunity to learn more about leadership. And it's just, we're going to bring together lots of high school and young people from across the city and the region. And it should be a pretty cool, exciting day.
And what is your aim of the forum?
Well, pretty much, I guess it's sort of a mix between inspiring all our young people to sort of become leaders, but also give them key skills that they might need to become better leaders. So I guess pretty much helping them sort of discover the leader within themselves, so to speak.
So tell us a little bit about the guest speakers that you guys are going to have there.
So we have 2 keynote speakers and a few more workshop speakers, but our first keynote speaker is Rangi over here, and our second is Philip Paxton, who's sort of like a motivational leadership coach based in Auckland, and so he should be pretty cool, but yes, Rangi will talk more about himself.
So why do you think it is important for youth to develop these leadership skills?
To develop them, I think it's really important for youth to get some experience in leadership at a young age, you know what I mean? It's like you get a captain of a rugby team when they're really young, you know, they learn how to lead a group, and that carries on through, you know, with them through their life. You know, they go to high school, maybe they lead something at high school, or they get into the workplace, they're able to be leaders there. And so I think it's just important to expose young people to leadership from a young age so that they can carry that with them through their life's journeys.
Because you won last year, you won the Supreme Winner. So tell us about that. Why do you think you won?
Why do I think I won? That's a pretty hard question because everyone always asks that. But I think I won because, obviously one, because of leadership, and 2, because I was recognised. And so that was a really important part of it, is that there's so much young people doing stuff, but unless they're recognised, you know, it's hard to, you know, you can't, yeah.
So what do you think makes a good youth leader then?
I think what makes a good youth leader is someone who's just willing to give it a go, someone who's willing to give it a try, and I'd say that's the most important thing about, you know, young people leading the way, paving the way, doing those kinds of things, that they'll just get up and give it a shot, because sometimes, you know, there's a lot of pressure and a bit of fear there, but I think just giving it a go is really important.
I suppose it's a little bit like the Kiwi attitude though, isn't it? You know, get up and give it a go.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, just get in there.
And do you think leadership skills are something that can be taught, or do you think they're kind of something that come naturally?
I think it's a bit of both. I think a bit of both, really. Like, you can be a natural leader, like I said, you know, in a team, and, you know, playing rugby, things like that as a young person. But you can also be refined as you get older and start to learn things, you know, learn how to do certain things or speak a certain way, or so I think it's a mixture of both.
Because, I mean, there are, you know, as Rangi mentioned, there's so many different ways you can be a leader. So how are you guys going to try and, you know, help people focus on their unique way of leadership?
I guess, like exactly what you said, everyone has a unique way of being a leader. So I guess for Youth Council at least, and what we're trying to do through FYI, is sort of give everyone an opportunity to see that, you know, anyone can be a leader. And it's about, I guess, discovering what your strengths are, what your passions are, and just focusing on that.
And the forum also wishes to inspire citizenship, active citizenship, sorry. That isn't that common in the youth generation, is it? So how do you go about trying to inspire that?
I guess, well, it's a hard thing to do, but I mean, I guess a lot of young people are involved in active citizenship. You know, they do lots of volunteer work, they do lots of work in the community. I guess they just don't recognise that as such. So it's about, I guess, making it easy to understand and making it relevant to young people that they should be involved in voting, for example. They should be involved in standing for council because, you know, it affects their lives, really.
I guess that's the thing, isn't it, that youth don't kind of really think about how much, you know, it does really affect their lives, you know, the council and the government and, you know, actually voting, isn't it? I mean, so what are some examples of active citizenship? You mentioned a few, but what's some other kind of examples?
So it could be, you know, as simple as, you know, just working in community. For example, what Rangi does and, you know, leading his church group, or, you know, doing good stuff in community development. It could be things like mentoring another young person, or, you know, being part of youth council, for example. So I guess it's a whole range of things. It's not just, you know, very narrow. I guess as long as young people feel like they're doing what they enjoy, and they're giving back somehow.
So what is, you mentioned your youth council, so what is the Hamilton Youth Council?
So pretty much, I guess the youth council acts as advisors to city council, so the staff and to all the elected representatives on youth issues. So we try and be a voice for young people in Hamilton, and we try and, I guess, work with council to make our city a better city for young people. but at the same time, we're trying to engage young people back with council and being involved in local government and decision making.
And that's very important because the Mayor told me recently that you guys have a massive population of youth in Hamilton. So, right, lastly, give us the basics. When, where, how much?
So it's free. And you get free food and spot prizes as well. It's on the 11th of July at the Wintec Gallagher Hub. So in Hamilton, and anyone's welcome between 15 to 25.
But you can also register online, I hear.
Yes, so if you just go to the hamilton.co.nz /youth forum website, and all the information should be there, or check out our Facebook Hamilton Youth Council page.
So we kind of have to register before we can just turn up?
Ideally, yeah. But otherwise just turn up on the day, yeah.
Well, thank you very much and all the best with the Youth Forum.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Up next, a Waikato woman reaching her sporting goals. If you have just joined us, welcome to Central News. A top New Zealand Commonwealth Games hopeful has just received a financial boost. We caught up with the Hamilton-born athlete Camille Buscombe to talk about her exciting news.
Tell us about your recent sponsorship.
Just recently, I got on board with Media PA, they're a promotions business, and they introduced me to Argent Motor Lodge, which is a client of theirs, and so they started. Last night was our first, was sort of promoting the fact that Argent Motor Lodge is sponsoring me. So they're my first sponsor. And it's really exciting to have them though. So they've got my little logos on my tops, a few of my shirts, and so it's Claire and Richard,
When are the qualifications for the Commonwealth Games and how have you been training?
Okay, well the Commonwealth Games are in August next year. They're in Scotland. And for athletics, qualifications, basically you meet a time, and as long as not too many other people, I think it's about 3 people can do the A qualifying standard, then you can go. There's not like a selection crew or like a boat sort of thing if you're in rowing that you have to make. It's the time you hit, and if you hit it, you can go. And so for the 1500 and 5K, that's my main events. And the 1500 A stand is 406.5, and then B standard's about 408, and then 5K is about 1530.
You train full time. How hard is it to survive as a New Zealand athlete?
We need a lot of help. My parents are really supportive. I'm actually still based at home, so food and rent is free, and then I work about 25 to 30 hours a week, which is a little more than I want to. Ideally would be about 15 with training, but financially, I don't know, I need to somehow afford to travel to different competitions, and athletics isn't hugely funded in New Zealand, so it's about juggling your time with working, training, getting enough rest, and still having somewhat of a social life to sort of keep, enjoying everything you do. Yeah.
You prefer 15,000 metres and compete in 3,000 metres. How different are the disciplines in training?
Well, 3K is actually, in the last few years, has just been ruled out of sort of like the Commonwealth Games and Olympics, and it's become the 3K steeplechase, which I don't do. And then it's jumped up to 5K. So 3K races there aren't very many of them. And it's obviously a longer race than the 1500. So it is a little, I guess it's slightly slower, and it's more of a consistent race, whereas the 1500 is really, really tactical, and it depends a lot on your competitors, who you're racing. So I guess race tactics, change of pace come into the race, as opposed to just general fitness, which is a little more to the 3K. Obviously it's still tactical, but the longer distance you go out, the more your actual physical ability comes into play, whereas the 1500 is lots and lots of little things that can either go wrong on the day. It's quite sort of an intense event, I guess.
You are New Zealand's leading female middle distance athlete. Tell us about how you've achieved this.
I wouldn't say it exactly leading. There's Lucy Van Dalen and Kim Smith at the moment that are, based out of New Zealand. So I guess I'm living in New Zealand. So I've got 3,000 metre champ. I hold the current title this year and last year. And then there's Angie Smith, who's more of she's also a mid-distance girl down in Christchurch. So I guess there's sort of a few girls up the top, but basically years and years of training, lots of competing, being right on the day. So for example, being right at nationals, being right when you're competing against the other girls, because obviously, yeah, if they beat you on an important day, then they get sort of that obviously, yeah, but no, it's good.
Besides the Commonwealth Games, what else does the future hold for you?
My ultimate goal is to make Olympics, and that's 2016 in Rio. So I'll be just turning 26. That's the ultimate goal. Next year is like a stepping stone. If I can, each year it's like if you can progressively cut more of your time, learn more about your race, yourself, different things that work for you, the closer you will be, like I will be to getting the time in 2016. So that is my next massive, like obviously that's like the ultimate goal, but then after that I'd like to go out to sort of 5K, 10K, and eventually when I'm like after 30s, marathons.
Rugby gets huge exposure in New Zealand. Do you think other athletes in New Zealand should be getting more support?
I mean, yes, rugby is a huge part of New Zealand's culture, heritage, and so is netball. And then, like years and years ago, athletics actually was like a really main thing with Peter Snell, and then Arthur Lydiard. He obviously trained so many of our top middle distance runners. So I think it depends on the athletes you have. At the moment, New Zealand doesn't have a huge amount of athletes competing in our country. Quite a few of our top runners are in America based, so it's hard to get the whole country behind them when they're actually not even living and training here. So I think it's partly to do with athletes, it's partly to do with obviously media and things like that, promoting the athletes. Yeah.
What advice do you have for other people who want to follow their dreams of sport?
I think that if you have a dream, whatever it is, I know people have academic goals obviously as well, and they tend to follow those, whereas I think there's sort of a stigma on sport sometimes to think, oh, you know, what happens if it doesn't work out? You're not guaranteed success, you're not guaranteed income. I just think that, I don't know, if you want something, you've really got to go for it, because there's so many years that you're sort of alive for. You don't really want to put something aside. You might as well really just try for everything, so that when when you're older, you can sit down and say, look, I gave it my best, and I'm proud of what I did. So I think, yeah.
If you would like to help support Camille reach her sporting goals, contact Philip Key by emailing philip@mediapa.co.nz. That is the news for today. We really want you to be involved, so like us on Facebook and let us know your views. If you have any news, including your own video or photos, go to our website and hit upload. Thanks for joining us. Hilary will be back tomorrow with more guests from in and around the region. I'm Amy Forrest. Have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.